Well, it is Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time, and it's time for Dylan Talks Tone. Got a little choppy start. Still implementing this cool new stuff so that you can be here and be a part of the conversation with us, and we're still figuring out a little bit. So I apologize for the little chop. But we have really cool stuff planned this evening on Dylan Talks Tone. How are you, Leslie?
I'm good. How are you?
How was your Monday?
It was very Monday-y.
It was very Monday-y.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the fun part of Monday because we just get to hang out and talk about stuff and things and about whatever else the internet wants to talk about too. So well, first of all, this is Dylan Talks Tone. We talk about guitar gear and all kinds of tone-related things. We'll get into what we're going to talk about tonight. We have a YouTube channel with over 300 videos that talks all about guitar tone-related things. That Dylan Talks Tone YouTube channel. If you're new here, check that out. My name is Dylan, and this is Leslie. This is my wife, and she's amazing at doing stuff that I don't know how to do. So that's why she is multitasking to helping us out. Apparently, I cannot even speak tonight.
It's required.
It is required. So, Leslie, how can those that are watching on YouTube be a part of our conversation this evening?
So if you are watching us live on youtube.com/Dylan Talks Tone. Make sure you pop in there. We have a conversation going. That's already started, so that's always super fun for me.
Oh, you already have people?
Yeah. So
excellent.
Make sure you say hello.
And ask questions and contribute to what we're doing, because if you have something meaningful to contribute to our conversation, we will definitely add it. It's always way more fun when we have that interaction.
We had our first hater that I just had to block.
Really?
Actually, I just think it was a spammer.
Kind of spammer deal?
It was nasty.
Yeah, so not to start off on a negative thing, but just to give you a little kind of heads up. And this is not against anybody in particular, but I just thought I'll mention it since we had one come up already. YouTube's really they're really getting hardcore on cussing and not youth appropriate stuff. So we're having to actually go through our comments and clean up and get rid of people that cuss and stuff. So just keep that in mind. If you use, any kind of vulgarities or bad language, you can be opinionated. Leave your opinion. Definitely. That's what we want to hear. But just be careful how you say it, because I have to go through and delete it, because otherwise YouTube penalizes my channel. And so we don't want that to happen. So what I would rather have happen is, be as opinionated as you want. We like that. We like that conversation. We like those, we'll call them spirited discussions about gear and various controversial topics. Mm-hmm. But just stay away from the swear words and the vulgarity and stuff. That way we don't have to remove it ever. I just wanted to mention that because it's a new thing. I never really cared about it that much. I figured everybody was having a conversation and they were comfortable.
The internet usually fixes itself,
yes,
right?
Yes. And so it never, obviously, I just want people to be able to express their opinions about what they hear and be able to participate with us. But that's a thing that's come up lately, and there's nothing really I can do about it. So I just wanted to mention that to everybody because we really do love it. I love going in the comments on YouTube videos and seeing 10 different opinions and everybody getting really into it. It's super fun, actually. So tonight...
And to not get off topic, if you're listening live, that is on kprlive.com, and that is where replay of sound only also, if you...
Yes, that is exactly right.
Listen versus watch.
And we're working on one more outlet for this show that will make it easier for iPhone users and stuff, and for Alexa users and home, Google Home and stuff. I don't have it quite implemented yet, but I'm still working on that. So for those of you that use those devices, it's coming, I promise. So our main topic tonight that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes is 60 cycle hum versus electromagnetic interference or radio frequency interference. Okay. And we're going to demonstrate live. Okay. I've got the Kemper hooked up. I've got the guitars here. And we're going to demonstrate live what that is. And because confusion over what's what on what noises are what can make troubleshooting frustrating. So we're going to help you with that tonight, and we're going to do it live. I'm going to show you what that noise is and why we know that and how you can track it and fix it, okay? And then we've talked about this before, but we've never had like the setup to be able to really share it this way. So I think it's going to be super cool. That's the main thing. And then the other thing is I promised last week, and I just realized that I promised this, and I forgot, that we wanted to talk about serial versus parallel and in phase and out of phase. And I have this cigar box guitar that is wired in such a way where we can actually demonstrate all of those things in one instrument. So we have, like I said, we got the Kemper set up. It's going into the board. We can plug in and we can do some fun stuff and we can demonstrate that stuff. So we're going to do that live tonight. Super fun. And it's just something that we've not done before, and I'm really wanting to make these shows a little bit more interactive. And I have a huge surprise coming, I hope, next week on this show to make it even more interactive for our viewers. I just really want to make this experience, worth your time. So grab a glass. I got a glass of wine, grab a beer, and we're going to hang out and talk about it. So is Black Friday since our last show?
We've had a show.
Cyber Monday was, though, right?
I don't know. I don't know what the calendar has on it, actually, now that I'm saying that. Yes, because the 27th.
So last Monday was Cyber Monday, right? And then they had all these Cyber Week deals, right? So Amazon and all your big companies had all the Cyber Week. So it's like that whole sales thing like keeps getting longer and longer, right? So the Cyber Week thing. In the guitar industry side of everything, I was noticing an interesting trend. We were talking about, we did a bunch of Kemper videos this week, and there was very mixed emotions about that. About whether, digital stuff is worth it or whatever. And there's always that argument. But if you go to, even right now, if you go to, Sweetwater or Zounds or any of those big companies that sell gear, the front page is all digital stuff.
We went in the music store the other day and it was all digital.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty cool.
The Head Rush, which is basically kind of like a Line 6 Helix. The Helix LT, even the 11 rack, which is a little bit older piece of technology, was on sale. All of that stuff was the focus. And even like more serious stuff like studio stuff, it was all digital stuff. In fact, we're looking at upgrading, our board and stuff, and we're going to go digital with all that too. It's just interesting. Those trends are going that direction. And we keep having these conversations about kind of sucking it up and adopting it, and very interesting. In other solid state news, I sold my Boss Katana today.
I'm chatting with your person right now.
Oh, the person that bought it?
Asked me if I was going to autograph it as well.
He did ask me to ask you that. I forgot to tell you that.
I wasn't prepared for that question.
We've got to go to Hobby Lobby and get a silver paint marker. That's what we're going to do.
I have one.
Oh, do you?
Duh.
Okay. All right.
Silver, gold,
Yep.
bronze.
The other thing that I spent some time on this week, I watched the Guns N' Roses rig rundown with John Bollinger. One of my favorite people in Nashville, I have to say. The thing that stuck out to me was that Slash, in order to keep from breaking strings and keep his string tension lower, he raises his tailpiece up off of the body.
In order to what? Say that again.
It changes the angle. So
Is it because of how he plays?
He plays really hard. So as the strings go over the saddle, and I'm actually, for those of you that are listening on the radio, I'm demonstrating this angle right here that it actually breaks over the saddle. On a Les Paul, you can vary that by that back tailpiece back here. You can raise that up and lessen that angle so that when you're playing, it's not as hard on the strings. It doesn't break them as easy. It also changes how the guitar plays because the angle over the saddles, it's called the break angle, can affect, it doesn't affect the tension because the guitar has to stay in tune, obviously, but it changes the feel of it. And there's this, age-old argument about whether you should wrap your strings over the backside of that tailpiece to do that. And people say, well, if you raise up your tailpiece, then you're going to lose tone and sustain. And it's a bunch of crap, really. It's a perceived thing that people have just got in the habit of saying. But if you raise the tailpiece up, it will do exactly the same thing. It won't hurt your tone. It won't add friction. It won't. There's many reasons. I'll just go there. Over the top tailpiece wrapping to me is stupid. Because whatever you think you gain in like flexibility and playability of the strings by lessening that angle, you then lose or compensate or offset by adding friction by having it go over the back of the outside of the tailpiece. So it's really, if you want to look like Jimmy Page, then do it. But it's not going to do anything. If you want to do the thing that you think you're doing, just raise the tailpiece up like Slash does. And then you're going to say, well, it's going to kill sustain and I'm not going to have tone. No, it's not even, doesn't even make sense. So there will be much conversation about that on the YouTubes. Because the last time I did a video on that, I think I started a war. But
I'm up to 5 blocked.
Really?
I don't know what is happening.
Are they blocked because can you tell that they're people that are listening, or is it spam?
It's spam.
Really?
Disgusting spam.
Ah. Very interesting. Well, maybe people are finding us.
Maybe. Somehow. But I feel like I can't not watch it. Like,
you have to stay on it.
It has to be moderated.
Really?
Yes.
Well, we'll try to do our best to keep up.
So back to, you were talking about all that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody asked why not top wrap. I think you covered that. And then because they play half step down is probably why he needs it. And then somebody said top wrap looks weird. It mars up the stop tail.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
It was just the conversation was headed in the same direction you were talking, which was cool.
Yep. Exactly. No, that's that. And that is kind of, and what's funny about it is it's this weird belief system because Jimmy Page did it and a couple other people did it, that it must be the thing to do. But when you really think about it logically, doesn't make that much sense. Like, and it doesn't take that much logic to get to that conclusion, but that belief system of, oh, I got to be like Jimmy Page somehow wins for some reason. I don't really know why.
Randy said it does kill the sustain by exactly 0.05.
Well, see, and that's it. Okay, so if you got out an oscilloscope or maybe a piezo something to sense vibration or whatever, we could get into a whole thing about resonant frequencies that would also not really apply. The real science wouldn't really apply. The words sound good, but it doesn't really apply. Even if you could put it on an instrument somehow, standing on the bar on Saturday night in front of a bunch of drunk people, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to tell the difference.
Did you say standing in the bar or standing on the bar?
Standing in the bar on a Saturday night in front of a bunch of drunk people. I mean, if we're talking about real working guitar players, it's just, it ain't gonna make much difference.
And somebody says if you raise the tailpiece too high, leverage and force could make the tailpiece move forward if the wood is soft.
Yeah, except for on a Les Paul, it's mahogany and maple. And the post depth on them is so high that it's probably 3 times the depth of the post still in the guitar. So I understand the point there, but you got to remember too that there is a law of diminishing returns. If you raise it up more than about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, then the tension going over the saddle will be so low that the strings will slide around and come off of the saddle and stuff. So there's a diminishing return there. The practical distance that you'll usually raise it up is between 1/4, 3/8, maybe 1/2 of an inch, but probably not, because you'll start to lose playing accuracy at that point. So I get the point, but you would never really practically raise the thing up that high to cause that trouble, if that makes sense. I mean, that's, of course, unless there's some kind of guitar and it's made out of basswood and it's, cheap parts and that sort of stuff. But if we're talking Les Pauls here, which would everybody else, what they do it on, it ain't gonna make any difference. Well, I'll tell you what. Bruce Kulick's guitar solo in 1988. He wants to see that tone, huh?
Mm-hmm. And then there was actually a conversation about it because there's another user listening and it said got to see them live. So they had a nice little oh man, I'm jealous.
Exchange about that. Oh, that's awesome. No, I dig that. Well, I'll tell you what. While you guys are talking, let me show you something. Show you something really cool. Because we're going to talk about 60 cycle hum and EMI RFI or whatever, electromagnetic interference. So I got a Strat with Les Paul or with lipstick pickups in it. Okay. And I'm playing it through a hot rodded Marshall profile. And for those of you that are skeptical, the one cool thing, or there's many cool things, but one of the cool things about a Kemper is whatever noise floor the original amp had and how the noises come through, like if the guitar is noisy or if the cables are noisy or if the pedals are noisy, the Kemper does a really good job of emulating and reproducing. Probably not emulating, probably actually reproducing that, okay? So, but I'm using the Kemper on purpose. We could use the Vibroverb for this, but the reason I'm using the Kemper is because there's a little bit of confusion about where the noise comes from, okay? So a lot of people will say, so here, let me just turn this up, and we'll bring it up in the mix here. All right, so we've got, I'm not touching anything, and you hear that noise, right? That is the noise that single coil pickups have. Okay. And I can make it go away when I put it in this position because we've got reverse wound, reverse polarity. So it's basically kind of acting like a humbucker in this position so it gets quieter. And then there is your single coil pickup by itself. Okay, that's the noise. Okay, now what's weird is a lot of people will say, well, that's 60 cycle hum. That's coming through the mains, or in Europe or in other places, it might be 50 hertz instead of 60. And yes, I still have a cough. But that is not coming through the mains. The reason I know it's not coming through the mains is because a Kemper has an isolated power supply. Okay? So it wouldn't be coming through the mains. It can't come through the mains. In fact, I wanted to get a battery-powered amplifier to show you that not plugged into anything, it will still make that noise. Okay? Now, there are things like ground loops in pedal boards and stuff like that, and we will do a show probably specifically on identifying and fixing ground loops. Okay, so we'll do something like that. But this is the most common, most annoying noise that everybody is trying to fix. Okay, and most of the time, and they'll say, well, I got to get a new power supply, I got to do this, I got to do that. That noise is coming through the air. Electromagnetic interference is a wave, like light or sound, only on a different wavelength, and it is coming through the air. It is not coming through the power line or the cable. Okay? Now, it can in certain circumstances, like we said, with ground loops and stuff like that, and we'll talk about that. But right now, you are not hearing that. There is no ground loop. There is no power supply noise from the mains because this power supply makes it basically impossible for that to happen. Okay? So we know for sure in this instance, which is 90% of the time, that that noise is coming through the air. Now, the reason people get confused with this is because it still is 60 cycle hum. Okay? But it's not coming through the wires. It's coming through the air, that electromagnetic interference. Think of it like this. An AM radio, okay? You remember when you used to get an AM radio antenna and it had that like hoop, like that metal hoop or plastic hoop, and all it really was a bunch of wires wrapped around that plastic or metal hoop, and then two wires that came out, and you plugged it in the back of your radio and you could listen to radio stations. Think about what that is very similar to. A bunch of wires wrapped around a core is what a pickup is. So it is very susceptible to picking up over-the-air radio waves, just like, exactly like, an AM antenna. And I'm going to show you, if you could go back to that farther camera, because I think, is that light is out of this shot, right? Mm-hmm. So go back to that other camera, because I'm going to actually physically go up to a fluorescent light, and you're going to hear the noise change. Even if you're listening on the radio and you can't see this, you're going to hear the noise change as I get close to the light, okay? Here is why, and we can go back to this other camera. So here is why this happens. Anytime you have a coil or a transformer, okay, which is two coils that are close to each other, okay? Anytime you have a coil or a transformer, you're going to have electromagnetic interference. Ballasts in fluorescent lights, okay? That's a CFL bulb, which is a fluorescent. The FL part is fluorescent lamp. So there is a little baby ballast in there. Even LEDs have little ballasts in them. Neon lights have ballasts in them. And any number of other things. Electromagnetic interference can go through walls. That's how your Wi-Fi works. It can go through walls. It can go through, to varying degrees, of course. I've got a TV over there, a flat screen TV over there on the wall. Now, flat screen televisions, they're LED. They are not as noisy as old school TVs are. But we used to have a television with tubes in it. It was a projection television. And when that TV was on in a different room, I could hear noise in my guitar from that television. Different circuit completely electrically. So it wasn't coming through the mains. Completely different circuit, completely different room, completely different power, completely different isolated power-wise. That noise was coming through the air. That is why shielding fixes it. Now, let's talk about shielding. I was going to get a telly for this, but that's okay. So, shielding, what you're basically trying to do is create a place for all of that stuff flying through the air, all that noise flying through the air, to go, and instead of going to the pickups, it's going and being bled off to ground. So a shield does not work unless it is being bled off to ground. And everybody's going to say, well, you got to have a complete Faraday cage, blah, 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 blah. There's math that goes into how a Faraday cage works. And I'm just going to tell you, and we have a blog post on this at dylantalkstone.com somewhere, that the math of 60 cycle hum makes it to where a Faraday cage is pretty much ineffective, mathematically impossible to do on a guitar because a guitar is too small. Because the waves are like 18 inches or 36 inches or something. It's really, really long. So basically, there's really no point in doing a complete Faraday cage, which is always impossible anyway because the pickup has to stick up out from under it. So, in practical terms, the best way to shield a guitar is make as big of a satellite dish as you can on the guitar to catch those radio waves and bleed them off the ground before they hit the pickups. Okay? On a Strat, it's awesome because you have this whole big pick guard and you can shield the whole back of it and ground it and fix it. On something like a Les Paul, well, Les Paul's humbuckers, but on a Les Paul Special that has P90s, it's more difficult because you don't have a pick guard. There's nowhere to hide all that foil, right? So then you got to do things like shield the back panel right here, and do other things to try to get as much surface area to catch that stuff and bleed it off the ground. And that's how it works. So if you're having noise, start there. The way you can figure this out is very simple. Basically, unplug everything and just plug straight into your amp. Turn it up and decide, like if it goes away, there's neck. Oh, there's middle because we got hum canceling between these two pickups. Then there's the middle pickup by itself, no hum canceling. And actually, there's no hum canceling here, so I must not have this pickup cover grounded. So, there you go. We just troubleshoot. That was it. If you do that, you shield this, get this guitar as quiet as possible. And there's going to be a bunch of conversation about, well, if I shield it, then it's going to change the tone. This goes back into the viewer earlier who said it's 0.005% of a change of tone and noise is worse, right? I mean, noise. What I always tell people is it changes your tone because you hear different things because you don't have that buzz there. Now, I am the kind of person that likes the buzz. I like it. I like it because it creates a particular, in different guitars, it could create like a certain harshness or a certain frequency that pops out because, I don't know, it just all works together. Strats are supposed to sound a certain way. Tellies are supposed to sound a certain way, and I like it. I don't care about it. Unless it's real super buzzy and dumb and noisy. There are certain pickups that, not here, but there are certain pickups that can be really, really noisy. And you got to do something about it. And there's certain playing environments where you might want to do something about it. In studio or, something like that. So that's that. I just wanted to share that. The difference between the mains 60 cycle hum, ground loops and stuff, and what you're hearing. And we've eliminated a ground loop because we don't have a pedal board or power supply for the pedal board or any of that kind of stuff involved here. On another show, maybe we will go ahead and use the old amp, the Fender, with a pedal board and create a different type of problem so that we can troubleshoot that one. So yeah, pretty fun stuff. Super fun stuff, actually. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Clearing my throat in your ear. Anything exciting happening on the internet, or are we just trying to get rid of spammers still?
We're doing good so far. There were some questions I dropped in. If you want to go take a peek at those.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Hang on one second. I just got to update my... Speaking of softwood, would you ever sanction a Paolina Strat? Absolutely, I would. I want to build a Paolina Strat for somebody just so I can say I did it. There are certain things that you have to do. You have to put hardwood inserts in where you glue them in, where there's any, like where the bridge screws in and stuff like that, where the neck bolts go. Like there's a couple things you have to do, but yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, maybe you could debunk that traditional pickups are better than Fishman Fluents. I think Greg Koch has that pretty much on lock. He is a Fishman Fluents guy. I've played those and I don't like them because I'm very traditional when it comes to that. I don't really care about noise and I don't care about the inconsistencies of guitars. Like I don't want them to sound all the same. So Fishman Fluents, Lace Sensor, EMG, they all kind of go... I don't want to say I dismiss them because they do all have a place, but I don't spend enough time to have a really good opinion about them because to me they have a certain like almost over perfection to their sound that personally does not appeal to me. They're not better or worse. Fishman Fluents are very amazing in certain environments, for sure. Absolutely.
So before you go to the next one, just want to clarify, because you were talking about shielding and how you liked it. So somebody specifically asked the question, you don't shield at all because you like the hum?
I do not shield any of my guitars unless someone specifically asks for it for two reasons. One reason is I don't feel that there is a need to get rid of all hum. If you are that anal about it, it's more in your head than the actual need to get rid of it. Now, that being said, there's certain circumstances where, yeah, it's got to be wicked, wicked quiet, in certain studios. And we have one client in Nashville who's a studio musician. No, he plays live a lot too. He plays with Reba McEntire. And he is like really, really anal about noise. He wants it to be super, super quiet. So I've had to do things like shield the entire inside of a hollow guitar for him. Mm-hmm. and really done some crazy custom things. But he might be the only person I know that is to that extreme. But he has a very special circumstance because the studio stuff he does and what he does is...
He also has a very particular ear.
He does have yes. He's one of those guys, he will sense intonation or tuning or anything if a guy is pressing too hard. I mean, he is so exacting, which is really fun for me talking to him because it really challenges me to be really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's number one. Most of the time it doesn't matter that much. And number two, 99% of my pickups are so good that in 99% of the circumstances, they're not noisy. I mean, you know.
Yeah, even for you to have noise in this room right now is because we have a terrible setup of lights.
Yeah, so
for noise.
Yeah, so to put that into perspective, for the radio show, there is 5 CFLs in that light box. There are 5 CFLs in that light box. There are 5 CFLs, so there's 15 CFL light bulbs right there. So we have 16 CFL light bulbs going right now within about 4 to 6 feet from the guitars that we're playing right now. So there is so much electromagnetic interference in this room, and it is not optimal to be doing a radio show this way, but that's just the way video / audio kind of ends up sometimes. Right? I mean, it's just how life is.
There's a lot of waves in the air in this room right now.
Absolutely. We actually have a Wi-Fi hub in this room right there. We have, and of course, wires going everywhere,
I can see a lot of that on the video.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully this will get a little bit tighter when we get a new mixing board, but yeah, there's just stuff going everywhere. I mean, it's just part of life in live radio and in YouTube land, but that being said, I don't shield anything because I want people to understand just how noisy stuff is. I don't ever want there to be a surprise. If you saw a guitar in a video and you're like, man, those pickups are too noisy for me, I'd rather know that ahead of time than send you something and, you be disappointed, because that has never happened. That's never happened to us. So even our P90s are not noisy. They're just not. So that is probably the main reason. Mostly so we can show off our pickups. The next question is
interesting. I don't understand enough about that technology to have an opinion, but I think that's neat.
Which one are we talking about here?
Noah's question.
Any reason why my guitars or amps make that same noise whenever hot water is turned on in my house? I think it might have to do with the tankless water heater, but I'm not sure. Okay, so this is very interesting. This is possible. I don't know how far you are from that thing, but that has a big old coil on it, a big transformer. Well, it depends if it's electric or gas also. If it is electric and it's 220 and it's close, that would be exactly the same thing that would happen if you had a welder going in the house. So there would be, in that case, it's possible because of the loading.
So if it's running, so it's instant heat, right?
Exactly.
So if you turn the hot water on, then it activates the water heater immediately, right?
And it's current drawing. I mean, it's pulling a lot of current to do that if it's electric.
That's interesting.
I'm assuming that it would be. That would be just like having a welder on. And in that case, it's possible that sort of noise would be coming through the mains because of load.
Right.
Because of loading.
I would have never thought of it.
Yep. No, me either. I'm glad we don't have one of those for that reason.
Well, and that's why it was an interesting question to me, because you always talk about perhaps wanting one. And then he asked that question, and I was like, wow, that would be a bad side effect.
It would. It would be a bad side. I think I still want one, though. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do some more fun stuff. Do we got some more questions we need to
I have
get
one
through?
more question that just came in.
Okay.
And this is, you may have talked about it. I don't know if they just popped on or maybe if they don't understand the difference.
Okay.
They said, what really irks me is the pop sound between grounded, loud, ungrounded hum when my hand momentarily loses contact with the strings moving up and down the neck. How do you deal with that?
Okay. So what he's talking about is this right here.
Right. So probably even as you're playing, if you lose contact while you're playing.
That's life. Well, it is. And the reason is because you are, for lack of a better word, you are grounding the guitar. You are the ground. And so that is a thing that is inherent to the guitar. I mean, you know.
Yeah. They just joined, so they missed the conversation when we were talking about it.
Cool. Well, here's what I did while we were discussing that. And if they have more questions, definitely have them chime in. I wanted to show you. Are we on the close camera or the far one there?
Which one you want to be on? The close?
Let's be on that one.
All right.
So this is a cigar box guitar made by hobox.com. I've had this for quite a while. It is literally a cigar box. Okay. So it's super fun guitar to have. It's an undercrown cigar box with, this one is a 24/75 scale, kind of a Gibson bolt-on sort of deal, with one of my DAF humbuckers in it. And this has a really interesting setup. What we wanted to have happen here was have your real traditional slide and blues tones come from this thing. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I promised last week to do a little bit of a demo of this guitar to talk about the difference between series and parallel and out of phase and that sort of thing. And this guitar can demonstrate all of that stuff. The way this is wired is we have our volume, okay? So this is the volume. Okay, that is one coil. So that is the coil that's closest to the nut. This is the other coil that is closest to the bridge. So you have that, right? Yeah, that kind of telly sort of tone. All right, now the three middle positions are very interesting. So we have our normal series situation, which this is basically like a humbucker. All right. Now the next one is parallel. Okay. So this is a humbucker, but instead of in series, it's in parallel, which is really interesting because it's very single coily as opposed to a humbucker. And then here's your parallel. So it's different. It's a very different sound, but even though it's not a humbucker sound, it still is hum canceling. So, because you still have these two coils that are out of phase with each other, or not, they're electrically out of phase with each other. So that makes them still hum canceling, even though it doesn't sound like a humbucker. So it gives you that single coil-ish sound, but quiet, which is really cool. And then the other thing we've got going here is a dirty pot, apparently. I never play this thing. I need to take it out and play it more. Is these two coils out of phase. Now, what's really interesting about this particular guitar is when you take two coils and they're out of phase, like on a Strat or on a Tele, you know what that sounds like that quacky kind of thin sound. Well, the closer together two coils get when they're out of phase, the more quacky and thin they sound. Okay, so that is what this one sounds like out of phase. Now, here's what's the fun part. This bottom knob, because it's got a stacked pot on it, I can adjust how out of phase I want it because I put a capacitor on it. So this is really super thin. See how I got like more hollow and out of phase quacky sound versus really super thin and almost useless, really. Because I can vary that with a capacitor. So that is the difference between series humbucker, parallel humbucker, out of phase humbucker. Super fun. And I've been meaning to show that to you because somebody asked about it like a couple weeks ago. I can't remember, and I've just been meaning to do that. Just to demo that for you. And since we had this setup tonight, it's kind of fun to do that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. We had a t-shirt idea based on previous discussion.
Uh-oh. Okay.
T-shirt idea that just says, "You are the ground."
You know, I'm thinking of something right now, and I think that might be a really cool t-shirt, actually. Yeah.
Pretty funny.
I dig it. FAQ section. I mean, I know we've been having a bunch of comments and questions.
We only have a few more minutes, like 12 minutes left.
Yep, exactly. And so I was thinking that it would be fun.
Did you make this title? You didn't spell it right.
It's possible. Spelling things has never really been my thing.
Just focus on the Q&A part, though.
What does it say on the bottom?
It just says with Dylan and A.N. Leslie.
Oh, well, that's how I talk, though. So we'll just go with that.
You got that southern thing going. You just leave off the D.
Leave off letters, leave off syllables. Yep.
Nice.
That's very cool.
You don't leave off syllables. You have to add extra syllables. Is how that works.
Oh, I've got that wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. While we're waiting for a couple of questions, I would like to point your attention to a couple of things. One is this article in Premier Guitar Magazine that my friend Philippe Herndon wrote. And it's a very interesting article about...
Do you want me to share it?
Please do.
I don't know if I can, actually.
About young people? Oh, we probably can't. Might have to share it on the Facebook page. In fact, I think I did earlier. It might be on our Facebook page at Dylan Talks Tone. About young people and female guitar players being an integral and important part of keeping guitar players and guitar playing alive. Because we are, our audience, I think, is like 94 or 96% male. And it is also, believe it or not, predominantly 18 to 32 years old. So younger people are mattering more. And so obviously that makes a difference for the kind of things that are made. And that's why digital stuff is becoming more popular. That is why vintage prices are leveling off. That is why, there's a lot of reasons that, but it's very important to continue to encourage young people to play guitar. And you know what? Even if they want to learn a Justin Bieber song, let them learn it. Let's get them playing. It's just a very interesting article. We got to have younger people learning, And then the other thing I wanted to plug tonight a little bit is if you want to follow us on a weekly, daily basis, which I know you're following everybody else except for Justin Bieber. Snapchat is Dylan Pickups. YouTube is Dylan Talks Tone. Instagram is Dylan Talks Tone. Facebook is Dylan Talks Tone. Twitter is Dylan Talks Tone. Snapchat's the only one I can't change. I even Googled that last night to fix that, and I can't change it. I would actually have to cancel it and get a new one. So we're really trying to be more active on a daily basis on all of those platforms. It takes a little bit of time, but I feel like it's really important for our viewers and for even for this FAQ stuff to be going all week, because this little comment thread that we're talking on right now will go away at the end of this live video or a few minutes after the live video is over.
Yeah. So with that in mind, if we didn't answer your question or you have a further question,
find us on Facebook.
Find us there, or once this video finishes uploading, you can ask it again in the YouTube comments as well.
Absolutely. Because we want to answer your question. What I was about to say, especially for those of you that are new to us, all of the content that we share here and on our other website, musicandmascara.com, is all user driven. It is very rarely anymore, especially after years of doing this and 300 different technical videos. It's very rare that I actually have to think of my own idea for a video. Most of the time somebody asks a question, and sometimes they ask them faster than I can make them, and I try to keep up. Sometimes that's why some weeks you'll see a new video, twice a day or every day or every other day. Because we feel it's real important for people to get good information. I just hate for people to waste money on stuff they don't need,
We did have a question come in about, user said they bought an Emerson cap. What do you feel about caps?
I feel Emerson makes very nice stuff. They make really nice stuff. They are expensive for what they are. And full disclosure, we sell capacitors. So I'm just going to tell you, we sell capacitors, and they're cheaper and they're just as good. I don't want to be somebody trying to talk about somebody else's stuff and then you find out later that I sell that stuff. So I'll just be
full disclosure.
Yeah, full disclosure.
And we did a whole show about it one time. Also.
We did. And this goes back to the viewer earlier who said 0.05% of a thing, right? This is one of those things, and Leslie and I were having a conversation off air about this yesterday, that so much of these things, and capacitors are one of them, value is more important than anything else. What it says on the outside, the voltage, the name, where it comes from, has nothing to do with how the thing sounds near as much as the actual value. And so some of the most popular videos on our YouTube channel is there is a playlist about how to select capacitors. If you go to our YouTube channel and look through the playlists, there will be, I think it's 5 or 6 videos, and it talks about the different aspects. Emerson makes really nice stuff. Do you need to spend $14 for a capacitor? I don't think so. I don't think there's any need for that. That has been a very well marketed and a very well branded company. They've done very well with that. And not taking at all away from the workmanship of their wiring harnesses and stuff, they are beautiful. Their soldering work is amazing. They're high quality parts that use high quality stuff. The capacitor thing, though, I think is a thing that you could get away with spending a lot less money, and it won't make any difference in your sound. But go check out that playlist, because that's where...
To educate yourself on what all that means.
Don't take what I'm saying right here.
Right.
I did make all those videos, so you'll probably still take what I'm saying, but I'm just saying there's a lot more there's a lot more information there.
Oh my gosh, that was funny.
There's a lot more information there that you can make a more educated decision than just taking my opinion in 10 seconds. I don't want you to make a decision based on my opinion. We're gonna give you some pretty
Get
good
some facts to
yeah.
go with that
There's
too.
some pretty good facts in
Oh
that
my gosh.
in that deal. So
don't listen to me, but listen to me.
yeah, don't listen to me here. Listen to me somewhere else. As you watch for a long time and many times.
Oh, he said, so I didn't go wrong then. He bought the whole unit.
Oh, yeah. If he bought a drop-in, so we do those too. And we build those drop-in things like a drop-in harness for a Strat or a drop-in harness for a Telly or, for Esquire, that kind of stuff. And, oh, yeah. I mean, you go to Emerson, whatever their website is. I can't remember what the actual URL is, but they're beautiful.
That's
absolutely
cool.
Beautiful stuff.
You had a what you just said here. We were laughing about it, but one of the listeners said, that's why I listen to you. I'm not wasting any more money. So far, you've been dead on, so that works for me.
Yeah, Leslie and I were talking about this yesterday, too. It's
4
fun.
minutes.
It's funny and I'll just end with this, and hopefully it'll help you get to know us a little bit better, and who we are as. I'm not sitting here trying to sell you stuff. Obviously, we've been talking for an hour and we have a whole website full of stuff, and I'm not trying to sell you stuff. You can go there and check it out, and please do, and please buy things. But
Shameless plug.
Exactly. But that is not the reason we do this. It is exactly what that listener just said. We want to make sure nobody wastes money. You have a limited amount of time to enjoy your hobby every week, and you have a limited amount of budget. We just want to make sure you make good decisions. And if you buy from me or you buy from somebody else, I don't care about that. We do provide things that are of good value that fit in with that. But I would rather you just make a good decision. And the other thing is, in this business that gets kind of funny, is people will look to certain people as authorities and then just do everything that person says just because. And I personally don't even want to do that for you. That's why I said I know they are my videos, but go watch those videos and learn those facts. And if it takes you a different direction, that's okay. I just want you to be educated on the thing. Learn the stuff, and if you need help learning the stuff, and if I don't know it and we have to learn it together, don't just believe me just because you found it on the YouTube channel. If we need to learn something together and I need to call an amp guy, or I need to call Bob Keeley and get Keeley over here and talk about pedals. If we need to do something to learn together, then I am willing to do that with you, just to make sure that you make the right decision on your gear. It has nothing to do with me being right. I just want everybody to get the most that they can. Mm-hmm. So, and I only went on that little rant because I want you to understand us, Leslie and I as people too, not just, the products, but we really believe that, and we really want people to let's all learn this together and be a community. This whole thing and asking questions live like this, there's no other guitar show anywhere that does this. And I really thrive on the community of it. So I'm glad that you guys have been able to do that tonight. Super fun.
Me too. Gives
awesome.
me something to do, y'all.
Right? During the whole show.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Thank y'all.
We are about out of time. We will be here next Monday. I think I'm going to have a really cool surprise next Monday.
I don't even know what that face is for, y'all.
And it's going to be super fun. I'm pretty sure. We'll see. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I'm going to try. And look for us on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and all over the internets. I hope everybody has a great week.